Hi, everybody. Welcome again to Enjoy English School. I'm Bruce.
I'm Antony.
Today, I love these lessons on good eats. Now, you might not find eats in your dictionary. It is a 口语. It's a colloquial word in English, really to mean food, especially good food that we enjoy eating, and we shorten that to eats. So, Good Eats talks about food, but not in the United States. We'll be going to Japan for Karaage is the soul food of Japan.
没错，我们今天要介绍的疗愈食物呢，是来自于日本。我们今天要带大家去日本来看一看神奇的灵魂食物唐扬鸡 Karaage.
Who will be the next champion of the Karaage Grand Prix? This is the question we ask, and we will answer it during our program today and tomorrow. But let's take a look at some important words in that question, especially the first one, champion. A champion is the winner or the best performer.
Yeah, 没错，在这边的话，我们看到一个很重要的字在副标题里头，就是 champion 这个字。champion， 我每次看到这个字的时候，我会想到那个 Freddie Mercury。We are the champion， 就是我们是冠军。好，冠军就是 champion 的意思。
Okay, and Karaage we'll talk about in the lesson, but Grand Prix, even though this ends with IX, it's a French word, and so it's pronounced Prix, Grand Prix.Grand Prix?
Yes, 没有错。老师这个地方讲的是那个法文的 Grand Prix。这个地方之所以这个 P-R-I-X X 不发音，是因为这个词呢是来自于法文 Grand Prix。然后在这边的话呢，常常我看到 Grand Prix 的时候，会让我想到的是赛车 race car.
Me too. Very famous. The fastest car race in the world is usually held in the U.S., and it is...In English, we just say Grand Prix, but we don't say pricks. All right, let's now take a look at our first paragraph after we catch our breath. Okay, first sentence, first paragraph. In Japan, people line up to enjoy karaage. If you line up or stand in line, one in front of another or one after another. If we drew a picture, we would be drawing a line of people. That's the polite way to wait for a bus or at a train station or at a great restaurant, especially if you're in Japan and you want some of that delicious karaage, which we will introduce next sentence.OK,
我们来先看到第一段的第一句话，他提到说，在日本呢 ，people line up to enjoy karaage. 好，这个 line up 的意思就是排队。有的时候你会听到 queue up 这种说法，多半是英国人会这样说哦。queue 的拼法是 Q-U-E-U-E，queue up 就是指 line up 排队的意思。
All right, now let's take a look at our key word for today's lesson. Every bite of karaage is juicy and bursting with flavor. Well, we still don't quite know what it is, but according to this sentence, it's delicious. Every bite of it means all of it.
Yeah, 没错，所以这句话呢就告诉你说，每一口的唐扬鸡呢，好 is juicy and bursting with flavor.Burst 这个字本来就是爆开来的意思，想想看，在嘴巴里面那个香气整个爆开来 with flavor 就是风味，所以说呢，你每一口都多汁而且充满风味。你们是不是越听越饿？最好不要在晚上听这个节目，实在越听的话就想吃宵夜哈。
This crispy fried chicken, aha! Now Americans will know what karaage is. We also love fried chicken.And crispy fried chicken. Crispy refers to something usually which has been deep fried. If it's fried, we use oil. If it's deep fried, we use a lot of oil. We put the food under or into the oil in order to cook it.OK,
所以在这边的话，老师有提到说 deep fried 这个词哦，多半呢只要油炸。如果你只讲 fried， 有可能是用油去煎，但是如果说今天是 deep fried 其实是把这个整个食物放到油里面浸泡在里面这样炸的这种情况。所以这个字 crispy 这个字呢是很香脆的意思，在109年学测的时候也出现考过这个字汇哦。所以它整句话的意思是说，好，它这个香脆的炸鸡呢，好 has been part of Japanese cuisine for nearly a century， 几乎呢在这个日本它已经变成是一个世纪以来是日本料理的一个部分。
And now it has become popular around the world. No, that's not Kentucky Fried Chicken. It is the Japanese style of deep frying chicken with their special flavors.
好，所以现在后半句这个地方他讲到说 And now it has become popular around the world. 好，到全世界各地呢都已经变成唐扬鸡的世界，好，到处都可以吃到唐扬鸡哦。
Okay, let's take a short break while we do a little eating in our free time. Okay, we're back and a little fuller than a few minutes ago. The roots of Karaage date back to the 16th century, when Portuguese missionaries introduced their fried cooking traditions to Japan. So this is nothing recent. I can't quite remember when our Kentucky Fried Chicken started, but it's been around for many decades. That much I know. But this goes much further back in time, meaning much earlier. It dates back to, we know when it began, and that was in the 16th century. That's 500 years ago, when Portuguese missionaries introduced their fried cooking traditions to Japan. Portugal was the first European power of their day at that time to come here to East Asia. They visited Taiwan too.
没错
Formosa.
没错，我们的 Formosa 就是从这个葡萄牙文来的嘛，所以这句话呢，我们这一整段都是在介绍唐扬鸡的一个基本的历史哦。他就告诉你说 The roots of Karaage 好，就是它的这个历史根源来自于呢date back to 可以追溯到 the 16th century 就是在16世纪的时候逗号 when Portuguese missionaries 就是在当初呢那些葡萄牙的这些传教士 missionaries 就是指传教士的意思哦 introduced their fried cooking traditions to Japan 就是他们当时的时候就把这种油炸的这种技术跟传统呢带到了日本
Back then, the 16th century, the Japanese didn't eat much meat. It doesn't really tell us why, but we do know that seafood, for example, which also has a lot of protein, is easily abundant throughout Japan. And, of course, they're excellent in terms of preparing vegetables as well. But to have meat like cattle, which produce beef, you need a lot of land, the one thing Japan does not have.
老师呢刚刚用到了一个字叫做 cattle 就是牲口或是牛啊羊啊这样的牲口好 OK 它的拼法是呢 C-A-T-T-L-E cattle 它是一个不可数的名词哦所以在这个地方我们看到它这句话说 back then 在当初16世纪的时候呢 the Japanese didn't eat much meat当初呢其实没有吃太多肉那老师刚刚有提到说其实事实上当初在日本你可以知道说海鲜是到处可以吃得到的很容易老师还提到 abundant 这个字 abundant 的拼法呢就是 A-B-U-N-D-A-N-T abundant 就是很多很丰富很容易可以取得的意思
However, they used these fried cooking techniques to create tempura for seafood. Their preparation, the way they cooked the food that was being introduced to them, they had their own techniques. They had their own styles or methods or ways. And, of course, most of us know tempura, and most of us eat it whenever we can.
没错。所以在这边的话，这句话一定很熟悉，对不对 ？However， 好，然而呢 ，they used these fried cooking techniques。好 ，techniques 的意思就是指技术，他们使用这种油炸的这种烹调技术呢 ，to create tempura for seafood， 来制作海鲜天妇罗。那天妇罗是大家都很熟悉的东西。
When Japanese diets changed after World War II due to food shortages, they used these methods to create Karaage. The Japanese diet, everyone's diet changes after a major war, such as in World War II. Europeans also had less food than before. Certainly Japan did. You don't have enough food, and not just we don't have enough apples. That's not really a food shortage. It means that it's very hard to come upon any kind of food. So they used frying and deep frying to create tempura because you don't need a lot of food, but it tastes great and it's easy to get the flour.
啊，没错，这个 flour 的意思就是指这个面粉。好，那在这边的话，你可以使用这样的方式去制作看起来比较多的食物，用油炸的方式配上一点点的食物，这样油炸之后，你可以把这个面粉啊整个这样吃进去。所以整句话就说了 ，When Japanese diets changed after World War II， 好，在二次世界大战之后，好，日本人的这种饮食习惯有改变。老师刚刚提到说，当今天打仗了之后，很多时候食物会不够嘛，对不对？所以大家饮食习惯一定会有改变。Due to food shortages， 为什么呢？是因为食物的短缺 ，shortages 就是短缺的意思。所以呢，他们就怎么样 ？They used these methods to create Karaage， 就用唐扬的方式，就是用油炸的方式来制作他们的饮食。
Okay, we'll take a short break and then come back for our final paragraph for today. Remember, this is a 2-day lesson. Okay, we are back. Let's take a look at that last paragraph here on our first day. That is the 17th of July today. In the 1950s, an early version of Karaage was served at a Chinese restaurant in Usa, Japan. Wow, so we've had Portuguese, Japanese, and Chinese foods mixing, and certainly that's what's happening in the modern world. You can get here in Taipei when I first came here. Some people weren't even born. You couldn't, besides Japanese and Chinese food, there was almost no Western food at all. And now there's food from 150 countries or something like that. Anyway, the early version or the early way to prepare Karaage in the 1950s was served at a Chinese restaurant. The Chinese know how to eat in Usa, Japan.
呀，所以在这边的话，你就看到这一段呢，他告诉你说 ，in the 1950s， 不要忘记咯，如果说这个1950后面加一个 s 的话，代表是1950年代。这时候你一定会讲 in the 1950s， 因为是 the decade 10年的关系。在1950年代的时候呢 ，an early version of Karaage was served at a Chinese restaurant in Usa, Japan。这个 Usa 就是那个宇佐这个城市，好，在日本。那它呢？最早期的这种唐扬鸡的版本呢，是出现在当时的中国餐馆啊，出现了早期版本的唐扬鸡。
Soon after this Chinese restaurant served our Karaage, several Karaage shops sprang up around the city. This is the past tense of spring up, S-P-R-I-N-G. To spring up is to become or happen or grow very, very quickly. And if you have a delicious food, everybody wants it, and that will explain why it spread around this city of Usa in Japan.
好，所以这边的话，老师用到另外一个字叫做 spread。S-P-R-E-A-D spread 就是散播，所以如果说今天一个东西非常非常受欢迎的话，于是呢很多很多的这种唐扬鸡的这种店呢就会出现了。所以你看这边这句话 soon after， 好，很快不久之后呢 several Karaage shops sprang up around the city。 所以这边的话，老师刚刚说了一下 spring up 的意思，就是突然很多很多大量的这种店就出现出来了。好，出现了非常非常多的店去卖这样的东西，于是这样的烹调技术就是刚刚老师讲到 spread 就散播开来了，越来越多人开始吃唐扬鸡。
Chefs in Nakatsu improved the process to make it more delicious. That often happens too. chefs are not only able to cook, they often also create or make new styles of older foods, older kinds of food, of course, to make their restaurants more attractive.
没错，所以这边的话就顺便告诉你说了 ，chefs in Nakatsu， 好 ，Nakatsu 这个地方呢就是中京，好，距离宇佐市的话很近，都在北九州那个地方哦。他就告诉你说，在中京市这个地方的这些厨师们呢 ，improved the process to make it more delicious， 好，试着去把这个唐扬鸡的制作过程的 process 试着去改良，好，改良就是 improve to make it more delicious， 让它吃起来更加的美味。
And how did they make it more delicious? They added apple slices and marinated the chicken for longer periods to give it more flavor. We're talking about a really delicious food and making it even more delicious. Well, most people like apple. It doesn't mean you're going to eat a whole round apple. We often slice. That means to cut very, very thin pieces from a large vegetable. For example, for watermelon, you cannot sit down and eat a watermelon, but we slice it and then eat it slice by slice. That's what the chefs in Nakatsu did, and they marinated the chicken. Now, to marinate is to put a food into some kind of liquid, more like a sauce or a soup, for a long period of time, and then the food will will take on the flavor of that soup.
OK， 所以老师刚才提到一个很重要的字叫 liquid。那我们今天在介绍这个 marinated 这个字的时候呢，就是腌制的意思。好，腌制在什么什么地方？这个东西都是把食物放在一个液体里头，可能是 sauce， 可能酱料啊等等，长时间的泡在里面腌制，让味道进去。好，它这个地方可以 absorb， 可能是吸收或者 take on the flavor， 就能够把这个风味给吃进去。所以这边的话，整句话的意思是说 ，they added apple slices， 他们增加了苹果这种切片的苹果 ，and marinated the chicken， 好，试着呢把这些鸡好是用腌制的方式 for longer periods to give it more flavor， 好，它腌制比较久的时间呢，让它增添它的风味。
By the way, in Western cooking, especially the French, they marinate a lot of their food, and they add usually wine or sometimes liquor into the pot of soup that they're going to marinate the food in. But don't worry, the alcohol evaporates. It's too hot, and the alcohol will leave, but you have the wonderful taste of a liquor or a wine to enjoy your food.
老师讲的 liquor 就是指这个酒类，然后把它放在酒里头，但是不用担心哦，因为这个酒天气热，它会挥发掉，酒精会挥发掉，它会保留了这个放在酒里头这种特殊的风味。在法国的这些法式料理里面，你会常常看到 marinate 这个字。
Okay, our final sentence of our final paragraph for today, day 1, remember? Over time, many Karaage shops opened up in Nakatsu, which became known as the Karaage capital of Japan. Over time, this means through, years, sometimes decades. It really depends on what you're talking about. But if we're talking about cooking and restaurants and so on, I would guess year by year, more and more people, of course, would eat and want to eat more karaage. So karaage shops, a shop is a small restaurant, the way we usually use this word here. They opened up, they started their businesses in Nakatsu, which became known as the Karaage capital of Japan. That's where it was first developed and made popular.
所以在这个地方你看到他这句话，他说 over time， 随着时间过去呢 many Karaage shops， 很多唐扬鸡的这个店呢 opened up in Nakatsu， 就是在这个中京市这个地方慢慢一家一家扑通扑通扑通都开了哦which became known as the Karaage capital of Japan， 这个 capital 意思是首都，那所以在这个地方中京市因为有很多唐扬鸡店都开了嘛，于是呢大家就把它称之为日本的唐扬鸡之都。
Okay, one thing I should mention here also, shop is not necessarily a restaurant. any small store can be called a shop.
在这边的话 shops 不见得一定是指餐厅哦 shops 的话也可以在其他地方也可以当作是不同的店家好在这边的话当然指的是卖唐扬鸡的餐厅
And finally, shop is often used as a verb. Go shopping.
没错 shopping 这个 shop 也本身也是一个动词哦就是去购物的意思
All right, we'll stop here, but we have much more for you tomorrow. We'll be back in just a moment to review some of the more important vocabulary items from day one. Okay, vocabulary review. Number 1, a champion, remember, is a winner.
就是冠军的意思
Number 2, line up.is to stand in line, one person in front of the next.
就是排队的意思哦
Number 3, be bursting with is to be full of something.
就是充满了什么东西
Number 4, date back to, we're talking about something that happened long ago when it first appeared.
就是追溯到什么什么时期
A technique, our next item, is a skill or method.
就是特殊的技术那我们在这边讲到是 cooking techniques
Number 6, shortage is a lack, L-A-C-K, lack of something. Something is not enough.
所以 shortage 意思就是短缺的意思哦
Number 7, spring up is to appear quickly.
就是纷纷出现大量的出现在短时间之内
And our last item for today is slice, which can be a noun or verb.And it's when you cut something into thin, long pieces.
这边的话就是指切片或是一片一片什么的东西它可以当名词也可以当动词来使用
Okay, that's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow, and I know what I'm having for dinner tonight.
Yeah.
Hope you all have a good dinner. We'll be serving you tomorrow, serving you English. Till then, bye-bye.